Welcome back to No Limit Drag Racing 2.0 and another setup for the imports, this time the Mitsubishi EVO 10. Now this is a bit of a strange setup compared to some of the other ones I've done. You're going to notice this car, if anything, has too much grip. The first gear is insanely short, so I've had to make a few weird changes, you could say, on the setup to make this work. It is just into the high 5.5, so it's still one of the quickest in class. Make sure as well you pay good attention to the run at the end of this video, because it is quite a tricky car, this one. You're going to need to shift at exact same times I do. If you shift any later, first to second, you can end up being 1-2 tenths slower, so it's vital you pay attention to those shift points. So I'm just going to run you through all the upgrades as per usual, point out the ones that make the most difference, and then go through the tune setup, just pointing out a few areas as well you can adjust if it's not working on your particular device. So let's get right into the setup. So first of all, the upgrades, you want to go over to engine section, and simple here, just fully upgrade everything to the best one possible. As per the previous setups I've done, I'm just trying to get the quickest time possible, so we just want the most power, so fully upgrade everything there. Then onto intake, maxed out intake and exhaust. Exhaust you can just select whichever one you want, but it's obviously, I'm using the turbo here, so you have to do it on the turbo section. I've just used hood exit, but that's completely aesthetic. You can just use any exhaust you want. Then onto transmission, fully upgraded this transmission. Only thing here is just making sure it's set to the 6-speed, which it should be from default, but sometimes you might misclick it, so just make sure it's on 6 speeds. Then fully upgrade the clutch and the flywheel as well. Onto suspension, fully upgraded brakes, front and rear. Same with the suspension, max that out to the best upgrade. And again, with these imports, I'm not sure why, but you can't upgrade the axle config from this page. So you're going to notice it's on the second upgrade and you can't change it. What you're going to need to do, just pay attention in the tuning section. You're going to be able to upgrade the coilovers from the tuning section. That's how I've got the third upgrade installed here. But just leave it on the second one for now, because you won't be able to do it on this part. Then onto frame, fully upgrade the roll cage. Again, with the imports, no wheelie bar, because you don't need it with a four-wheel drive setup, because the car doesn't wheelie at all, so don't bother installing the wheelie bar. Max the weight reduction, fully upgraded weight transfer. And again, I've not gone with the parachute. I don't really think it makes any difference, and I just, there's no need activating the parachute at the end unless you want to be a bit more realistic, I guess, but I never install it. It doesn't actually change the times. Then onto the computer. Nitrous tuning I've not upgraded because obviously we're using the turbo on this setup, so you don't need the nitrous installed. You probably can use nitrous, but you may need to slightly adjust the gear ratios. That's why I always recommend copying the power adder I use. So just use the turbo for this one, and then if it does work, maybe you can try the nitrous after. And then for the rest of the controllers, just fully upgrade launch, fuel, timing, and boost. And onto the most important part here, the tyres. It's vital you have these exactly the same as me. Same height, width, and diameter rims, because if you change them, it can adjust the gear ratios. So for the rear, making sure you select slick tyre, and you want 24 on the height, 15 on the width, and 13 on the diameter. So just double check that's exactly the same. Then onto the front, same again, make sure you select the slick tyre, and we want 24 height, 18.5 width, and 13 on the diameter. So just make sure those are exactly the same. And one thing I've noticed on this car, the front wheels are actually wider than the rear. Now, I don't know in real life, but I'm guessing the car sends more power to the front wheels than the rear in real life. I'm not sure. That's what would explain that, I guess. Maybe someone can leave that in the comments, because I don't actually know in real life, but that's my best guess as to why. So that's all the upgrades. Just make sure you go through there, double check everything is the same. And now we'll get on to the tuning setup. Starting off with the tune, you always want to go to computer. Reason being is the limiter RPM. If you don't set that to 10,000, you're not going to be able to adjust the gear ratios properly. So just making sure that's on 10,000. And again, you can see here I'm not using launch control, so make sure that's unticked. Shift flight RPM. Again, I've gone for 9600. It's kind of just a midpoint of when you want to shift. Don't always shift at 9600 RPM, it's just a reference. Make sure you watch my run at the end of the video if you want to see the shift points to get the best time. And then delay box, I've gone with 0.070. That's just set up for the pro tree, so reacting to the amber light. And then the car will go on its own on green. If you want to know how to set up delay box yourself, I will, as per usual, link my delay box tutorial video in the corner of this video. Then onto fuel rate and timing. Again, perfect tune is installed in the top right hand corner. You can't copy my numbers here. If you do, you'll have less power and it won't be maxed out. Everyone's got a slightly different perfect tune, so make sure you pay the 300 gold to upgrade each one of those to the best, or you can just buy the strip car version of the car when you initially buy it, and that'll give you the perfect tune. So you won't have to spend any gold, it's just $150,000 for that car. Onto boost, full boost, 30 across the board there. Then onto transmission. As you can see here, very short first gear. This car has so much traction off the line. It gets a sub 7/10 60 foot as well, which you're going to see from the clip. So you want to have 428 first gear, 425, 157, 122, 097, 077, and a final drive of 347. As you can see there on the left, 4.3, very, very short first gear, which does affect the shifting in the clip at the end. Graph scale doesn't make any difference. Some people ask that, is just the scale of the graphs. You can see the gear ratio is better. Now, if you do find the car's bogging down a bit too much, same as usual, you can kind of increase that value of first gear, shortening the gear. So maybe try 4.3, see if it's any better. And then, you know, it's a bit of a case of trial and error. Or if you find the wheels are spinning too much, you can lower that number, which will make the gear a bit longer. But always just try my setup from the get-go, so go for 4.28. Then onto suspension. This car is a bit different to usual. We've gone all the way low on the ride height though, 0.15 on the front, 0.16 on the rear. Stiffness, this makes a big difference. 52,000 on the front, 46,000 on the rear. It's like I said, this car almost has too much grip, so you have to kind of try and make it spin the wheels a bit to get a good time. If you find the car's spinning the wheels a bit too much, I found you can lower that rear value, maybe try 44, and the opposite, if it's bogging down, you can increase that, maybe try 48. But as per usual, it's just trial and error, seeing which one works best. Then on to the bump and rebound sections. First things first here, top right hand corner, this is where you can upgrade the coilovers, because you couldn't do it in the upgrade section, so make sure you do that. Then we've gone 7,000 on the front bump, 1,000 on the rear bump, and on the rebound, 1,000 on the front, 7,000 on the rear. Extension, now this is, I don't think it makes any difference to the time, but I'd always recommend copying me to start with. So I've gone minus 0.24 front and rear. And camber, this is completely visual, it doesn't affect the time. I've just set it so the tyres aren't clipping through the bodywork, so you can copy my numbers there if you want, but as I said, you can set that to anything you like. On to wheelie bar, obviously we don't have installed. Weight, this is a very important section on this car, and it is quite far back. I wasn't expecting it to be anywhere near this when I initially made the setup, but I've gone for 0.48. This is another area you can adjust. So if you find the wheels are spinning a bit too much, you can bump that back to maybe 0.47. If you find the wheels aren't spinning at all and you're bogging down, other way, and just try it and see if it works for you, but go for that 0.48 to start with, and then 0.05 on the height. We've done the computer section. And then nitrous, obviously, we don't have installed. So just make sure you run through everything again there, double check it's all exactly the same. And now we'll get on to my run, which is a high 5.5. Lastly, onto my best run with this car, a high 5.5. Key things here, 125 for the tyre temp. That gives you the best grip in this game at the moment. And the key thing, watching when I shift from first to second and second to third, around 9,300 RPM. And then thereafter, the other gears you can shift later and later until 5th to 6th. You're pretty much shifting at the latest point you can. And car's going to cross the line there for a 5.594. You can see the 60 foot on this is very quick, 0.704. I have actually managed a 0.69 60 foot with this. So you might be able to take, you know, 100th of a second or so off that top time. Maybe a 5.58 if you get the perfect launch as well. So that's all from me. Make sure you leave a like below if you've enjoyed this and found it helpful, and I'll see you next time.